As long as the president it's up to the president to decide if he is going to run. We're all encouraging him to make that decision because time is running short.
He has made the decision. He has said firmly this week he is going to run. Do you want him to run?
I want him to do whatever he decides to do. And that's the way it is. Whatever he decides, we go with. And I've said to everyone, let's just hold off. Whatever you're thinking, either tell somebody privately, but you don't have to put that out on the table until we see how we go this week.
I love that conversation so much. I can't wait to talk to Buck about that conversation. I had a similar conversation with my youngest son. He's a swimmer. And I asked him 2 days ago, woke up that morning and I asked him, I said, you want to go out there, get some laps in, make sure you're getting yourself ready for the season? And he said, man, I'm not sure, kind of tired, slept in a little bit this morning. I said, do you think you should maybe get some laps in, get ready for the season? I know you haven't decided yet, but do you think it would be a good idea? That's what Nancy's saying. Joining me now, my friend, obviously doesn't need any intro, host of the great Clay and Buck's show, biggest radio show in the country, Buck Sexton. Buck, buddy, I know you say he's staying and I say he's going, and we've had this conversation a million times, but there are some very, very, very powerful people getting really public about all this thing. What say you?
Jesse. You know, there are many people who in the last few days have been emailing me and they were saying, Buck, I'm so sorry I doubted you. I don't know why it would ever even occur to me to think that I shouldn't be on the Buck train, that I shouldn't be picking a plot on Buck Island, as it has become known on the show, where I have been saying, without fail, do you know that after the debate, Jesse, I doubled down on radio and said Joe Biden is going to be the nominee. And it's because I understand a few things. One, the machinery and the possibilities. Two, I know the mindset of Joe Biden himself. Joe Biden is a sociopathic narcissist. The moment that he's not running, him and his entire family of losers are nothing. And he knows that. And he doesn't have much time left. The most important thing that Nancy Pelosi said in that, and I do agree with you, although what your analogy about your son and swimming, it's as though you're saying, hey, buddy, do you want to go swimming? And your son is looking in the eyes and going, I'm not going swimming. And then you're like, hey, buddy, but do you want to go swimming? Like, that's what's actually happening here, because they can't make him not run. People keep acting like, oh, he has said I'm running. He has no incentive not to run. So why wouldn't he run?
Well, okay, we'll set that aside because we don't have to argue about that again, because there's an aspect of this that I find very, very fascinating. Watch this from Michael Bennett. Here's Senator Bennett from this morning.
You, Senator John Tester, and Senator Sherrod Brown all said during that lunch that you don't think President Biden can win in 2024. Is that true?
Well, it's true that I said that. And I did say that behind closed doors. And you guys and others asked whether I'd said it. And that is what I said. So I figured I should come here and say it publicly. Donald Trump is on track, I think, to win this election and maybe win it by a landslide and take with him the Senate and the House.
Okay, let's talk about the power dynamics here, Buck, because it's one thing, we're friends. It's one thing if I have an axe to grind with you, which I don't have any axe to grind with you. It's one thing for me to pull you aside, shoot you a text. Hey, Buck, I really have a problem with this. That's no big deal. You and I would work it out. If I go on my radio show tonight, right here on The First tonight, or do anything publicly and say, that Buck's a piece of crap, well, now we've got a problem. They're coming at him publicly, Buck. So if he stays, how do you put Humpty Dumpty back together again?
I think it's the nature of politics these days that people are so lacking in consistencies and principle that almost no one expects consistency or principle. And this is something you've seen on the Republican side, something you see on the Democrat side. Here's how I see it on the coming at Biden publicly right now. I think they're doing this because they're going on the record now so that later on, if, let's say, Biden gets smoked against Trump, if he stays in as I think he does, or as I think he will, and he gets absolutely crushed, they can say, see, I told you guys, I said replace him. But what they're not going to say then is what I think is going to happen in about 3 weeks, which is they're going to say Trump is too much of a threat to democracy. Biden will be a good steward, whether he lasts 6 months or 4 years in office going forward. So, the threat against democracy is too big. Joe Biden has to be the guy for now. So I think that, basically it's like they're calling the big game and they're going on record. I know somebody who does this, going on record publicly saying that both sides will win. And then whoever wins, they say, see, I told you that's what's going to happen. This will all be forgotten. This will all become an absurdity. But the biggest thing for me with all this is, why isn't it just Kamala? Like George Clooney wrote this letter like, oh, I'm George Clooney, like I'm important. He wrote this letter that Joe Biden should step down. And what they do is they open it up to the deep Democrat bench. You have a dementia patient as a president. You have a vice president whose job is to be ready to take over for a dementia patient president. So why aren't they just saying it should be Kamala? The only reason there's this what do we do is because I think they recognize Dementia Joe has a better shot against Trump than DEI Kamala. And that's the truth. That's what no one's saying out loud, but is obvious from everything that they're saying on in the media and on the news channels.
She really is the ultimate poison pill that they accidentally chose that's going to end up protecting Joe's nomination if he keeps the nomination. Okay, but there's a conversation you and I had one time in person, although I know you won't mind me sharing this publicly, especially since I already have on the radio before. We were hanging out during the midterms that were supposed to be that red wave, and it didn't turn out to be a red wave. And you and me were licking our wounds, huddling in the corner, and we're talking. And what we came up with was simply this. The country's never as far to the right as you would like or as I would like. We convince ourselves it is, and there's going to be a red wave, and they see how crazy Democrats are, and then that doesn't really materialize. I see a lot of preemptive celebration here on the year of our Lord 2024, July 10th. I'm not so sure that I see some red wave because every time I see that, it doesn't come.
I agree. I said this actually earlier today on radio. I don't know how Biden can still win, but I know he can still win, and everyone needs to hear that. If you ask me, explain that process other than just like they cheat, right? But explain that process in a meaningful way. I'm not capable of doing it right now, but I know that it is possible, and I know it's possible because of what we've seen in the past. And that's why there is, I think, a little bit of exuberance, overconfidence on the Republican side in this moment. I think that you're going to see things get tighter. Remember, it only has to get tighter in a few states. As people, it doesn't matter. Trump being up, 15 in North Carolina, it's not that. It's like 8 or 10. But he was always going to win North Carolina. Is he going to maintain the leads that I do believe he currently has, but it doesn't matter yet, in Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania? And I think that's the whole thing. I mean, I think the Democrats are just thinking if they run the table in those states and they defend their other territories, which they probably can do even with a quasi, with it person. I don't know how best to describe Joe Biden these days, dementia patient. Then I think they believe they can still win. So it is going to be closer than people realize. And also you're going to have a lot of Democrats who do the distancing thing if they have to, in places that we should just be running the table. They're going to say, oh, well, I'm not a Biden Democrat. I'm a Pennsylvania Union Democrat, or I'm a, whatever. You get what I'm saying. So yeah, I'm not cheering for this too early. And I would just say, even Joe Biden muttering gibberish when he should have a blanket on his knees, feeding pigeons in the park, is going to get 49% of the vote, everybody. That's the truth. Just mark he's going to get 49%. He might get more than that, but you could push him out on the stage election night, drooling on himself and muttering nonsense. 49% of the electorate's going to vote for that clown instead of Donald Trump. Just remember I said it.